What's up, my beardos and weirdos? One topic here. And before we jump right in, oh my goodness. Did you notice that we hit 3,000 subscribers? That's amazing. Thank you to everyone who's been subscribing lately. It's been awesome to see you come aboard, and hopefully we can keep making content you enjoy. So we're diving right into r/ProRevenge. Apparently this channel's favorite subreddit, and it's one that I'm really enjoying as well. We have 3 stories to go over today. The first one is about a scammer that tries to access a guy's PC, and he turns the tables. The second one's a popular one about a bad landlord going to jail. And the last one about a guy who finds himself without a plane ticket. Alright, let's get started. Scammers want access to my PC. I turn the tables and start wiping their computer. TLDR equals the same as the title. A friend told me that this belongs in here. I have read many a ProRevenge, and I think that this may or may not belong here, so mods, if it doesn't, just let me know and I'll take it down and put it wherever it might belong. Background. I got our home phone number long before cell phones were a common thing to have. As things have evolved, that phone number is part of my history and is utilitarian to use for things I don't want ringing on my cell phone. Like 99% of anything that requires a phone number for no good reason. So I have kept that phone number alive over the years. Most recently, I moved it a few years back to an online service that charges a tiny amount of money per month to host it for me. I access it via a SIP client on my computer. The story. Because of the nature of the phone number, it randomly rings. If I have time to mess with whomever is calling, most calls are your car warranty is about to expire kind. Some of the calls are about non-existent credit cards. My favorite calls are the scammers. I record all the calls that come into this phone number. In my state, only one person needs to know that a call is being recorded, and besides, these scammers are all overseas, so I really do not care about their laws. So when a scammer calls, I tend to answer and play along. Sometimes these calls last a few minutes before they give up on me. Today I set a new record, a total of 1 hour of their time wasted. The call comes in as normal, I string the guy along. I play dumb. I keep them thinking I'm an easy target. After 40 minutes, I tell him I have to hang up, and could he call me back in an hour? To my surprise, this idiot calls me back. So I decided to see if I could get him to let me connect to him by continuing to play dumb. My plan is based on knowing that they have a handful of tools at their disposal, easiest of which is TeamViewer. So I play along until they get me on a TeamViewer, but I never give them the real information on my end, and I just ask for my partner ID. The idea is that with TeamViewer, you can switch who is showing the screen after you make the initial connection. I know that I have but a precious few seconds of time if I manage to get them to give me their ID and password to make my plan happen. So I have a dummy terminal set aside for all of this. I quickly write out my set of commands so I can copy them to my clipboard and launch them as soon as I get connected. Sure enough, they give me their ID and password. I am ready and I strike. Paste the commands into a run window and let it rip. As I see the window pop up with a command prompt and the deletion of folders starts, the guy starts to stutter and asks, "What are you doing, sir?" I keep playing dumb until my connection is terminated. Files have been deleted. The scammer is pissed. He starts to curse at me. I eventually start taunting him and cursing back at him. After a while, he hangs up. Look, I know that they have cloned systems and they will be back up and running in no time at all, but this wasted an hour of their time, and that is an hour they can't use to scam someone else. Proof, the recording of the call. Edit. So I woke up to 8K upvotes, quad silver, triple gold, and platinum. Thank you, kind Redditors. I can't reply to everyone, but the details of most of the questions are already in the replies from last night. OP! What a story. Good on you for taking on the scammers. Yeah, it's a really terrible system that they run. They really take advantage of the people that are most vulnerable to this, and it's people like you standing up to them, wasting their time, that make it a less lucrative business. Unfortunately, they wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work. So hopefully, if enough people resist, they might stop. It might not be worth it anymore. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Thanks for being a thorn in their side, OP. Good story, too. Bad landlord scams his tenants and goes to jail. Many years ago, when I worked for a rent-to-own company in a small town, there was a little apartment complex which we made frequent deliveries to, and just as frequently had to repo from. It had been a motel when it was built, and the owner turned it into apartments by just making doorways in the walls between rooms, putting a kitchen and living room in one, and a bedroom in the other. The place was very run down and apparently pretty inexpensive. And based on a few things customers said, it seemed that the majority of the tenants moved in there for short times. I figured it was because they were waiting for prefab houses to be financed and delivered, since the vast majority of housing in that town was mobile homes. Turns out I was wrong, but more on that later. Between deliveries and pickups, we were visiting this place multiple times per month, but the landlord wouldn't let us park the truck in the parking lot to do it. It was a motel parking lot, so there was way more space than tenants needed, and plenty of room for our truck. But the minute we pulled into the lot, the landlord would come running out of the office and yell at us to get the truck off his property. We were still allowed to deliver and such. We just had to carry the couches and old-style rear projection big screen TVs across the gravel lot from a truck parked on the street. It was more than a little annoying. Then came the day that I was visiting some customers, a young couple, to have them sign an extension because they couldn't make their payment, and I saw an eviction notice on their door. I knocked, they answered, and then they too saw the notice. They explained that they needed the extension because they were behind on rent, but the eviction was unexpected because they were only 2 days late. The notice gave them 1 week to move out. They signed the extension and I left, a little suspicious because that didn't seem right to me. A few days later, I got a call from the couple saying they needed to return the stuff they'd rented because they were being evicted and had to move to a motel. I told them to wait there, I'd be over in an hour. My wife had worked in the rental office of our previous apartment complex, so I knew some tenant laws. When I checked after getting the extension signed, I found that evictions couldn't be served with only a week notice. They had to give 30 days for tenants to pay or move out. If they moved out, the landlord could take any unpaid rent out of their security deposit. This was a small town with lots of mobile homes, so I'm guessing the law was to prevent people being evicted from renting land on which they had a mobile home they owned. But it applied to apartments too. Normally, I'd have considered this none of my business, but everyone in our store hated that landlord and wanted to get back at him. So I printed out the applicable rental law pages from the town's website and drove over to the apartment complex. There I knocked on the door of every one of our customers living there, which was about half of the 20 or so apartments, and gave them a copy of the law. While doing this, I learned that the landlord had been evicting people like that for being even a day late, then keeping their deposits, citing the very law I was giving to my customers, just not the part about 30 days leeway. He charged rent in advance, you paid for the next month at the end of each month, so people were losing their deposits over being 1 day late. On top of that, the landlord wouldn't accept late payments, even if they were before his scheduled eviction time, because he made more money by evicting people and moving someone new in since he kept all their deposits. I told the couple that had started all this that if I were them, I wouldn't move out, and I'd contact a lawyer or at least the city housing department and file a complaint. They were worried because the landlord had said he'd have the sheriff's department evict them if they didn't move out in time. There were no local police. Small town. But I said that even if the landlord called them, I doubted they'd actually evict them if they cited the law. That was about all I could do, and I hoped it'd be enough. It was. The couple came in a few weeks later to pay for their rental furniture and to thank me for all my help, telling me the landlord had just been arrested. They'd filed a complaint, and when the landlord called the sheriff to evict them, it had kicked off an investigation. I never learned what exactly the charges were or what happened to the landlord, but the complex ended up under new ownership. And the new manager had no problem with us parking on their property for deliveries. Also, the number of repos and deliveries were suddenly dropped because people were no longer being evicted constantly. Between that experience and other stories I've read online, I never cease to be baffled and annoyed that people don't know their rights as tenants. Check your laws. Don't take a landlord's word for anything, and stand up for yourself. That is really solid advice. It's difficult as someone who's renting a place. It's difficult to be in that situation and then think to yourself, yeah, I should probably stand up for myself if something doesn't seem to be going right, and I'm pretty sure it's against the law. But, reading these stories I think gives us that reminder. It's people like you, OP, fighting for the little people. Thanks for writing the story. Hope to see more from you in the future. Take my flight home, I'll take your money. My first post and on mobile. Me. DFO, Dumb Fusing Officer, Lieutenant Colonel. As a new lieutenant in the Army a few years back, I was tasked to be a guest observer, evaluator, at the National Training Center in California. Basically, it's a large desert with small towns for military units to train in before deploying. On day 29, once all evaluations were complete, I was set to fly back to Texas and return to my unit. in the Observer Controller Barracks, I was approached by a Colonel DFO. DFO. Lieutenant Bucks, I am taking your place on the flight back to Fort XXXX. Me. Sir, you're a part of the training unit. All of the observers are leaving on this flight and my bags have already been sent to the airfield. I don't have any changes of clothes. DFO. You'll be okay for a few days. Officers must innovate to be successful. And innovate I did. When I returned to my post, I was unable to locate my gear, including body armor, computer, cold weather gear, and other like items due to the fact that they flew in 2 days before me on the flight I was kicked off. I informed my command and they initiated an inquiry called a FLIPL, Financial Liability Investigation of Property Loss, in which an investigator is required to determine the reason for lost government property. The investigating officer determined that I was not at fault and that DFO abused his authority to return home earlier. Additionally, since I was left at the training center for over 30 days, I was due additional pay for being away for over a month, which amounted to over $1,000. DFO was found liable for over $7,000 worth of my equipment and had to pay for, which I subsequently found and turned into the central issue facility. I was reissued a new set of kit. I bought myself a nice chair and put the rest into my TSP, government equivalent of a 401k, with the extra temporary duty, TDY, money. View space got reduced to a staff job. Thanks for reading. Edit. Thanks for the silver, stranger. Edit. Platinum. Thank you. This is really unexpected, but truly makes my day. Edit. Thank you for the gold, nice stranger. OP. It's awesome to see stories from the military where people recognize that, a little bit of malicious compliance is needed when their CO gives them an order, or whoever their commanding officer is gives them an order, and they decide to follow through on it, but to the letter. Good on you for getting them charged for all of your equipment. It's not a good idea if it's lost, and I hope things have been running smoothly since, but if you have any other stories to share, I would like to read them. Alright, my beardos and weirdos, that was another dive into r/ProRevenge with 3 good stories. Also want to mention I did set up a Patreon. I'm looking at investing in some new equipment. I thought you guys, hey, if you enjoy the channel, maybe you want to support it. And if you don't, that's alright too. But I wanted to give you a look at what it would look like if you did. To my regular fans, thank you so much. Every name on the board here is one of my regular fans. To my super fans, wow, look, your name's on the board. Insert name here. My name could be this. Your name here. Your name here. Look, Mom, I'm on TV. Omega fans. 1, 2, 3, your name could be here. Totally original sounding name. Not too many numbers in this name. One I clearly don't know how to pronounce. Another unpronounceable name. And now to thank my unicorn fans. Hey, cool, wow. Got your logo. Thank you to my unicorn fans. We have Rainbow Stardust, definitely a real person. I collect puppies. Alright, my beardos and weirdos, that was just something fun to whip together. I thought, hey, why not? If you like supporting the channel, that'd be awesome. If you just want to listen in, that's okay too. I'm making these videos for fun. I will be looking at investing in new equipment in the future. It's just taking me a bit of time to set aside that money. So if you want to support that, that'd be awesome. Let me know in the comments below what videos you want to see next. We had some awesome stories today, and I was really happy to be reading them out. The stories are linked in the description, so give those guys a shout out. They're awesome. And hopefully we'll be seeing you in the next video, where we take it one topic at a time.